Wine tasting implies small amounts were being tasted. Was it small amounts, John, or was it?
I mean, yeah, small amounts were tasted, but multiple small amounts.
It's just holding a baby and sticking a bottle in its mouth.
That's the same thing, right? That's pretty much what John did.
Pretty much the same.
And that's no wonder it wasn't making any sense when I was in practice before and used systems like Xero for multi-entities or trying to pull together multiple sources of data. You spend hours of time, one in Excel pulling it together. Then you get to the next month when you try to remind yourself, how did I do that last time? And then are you actually putting the data together in the same way? Are you aggregating it in the same way? And are you even consistently applying the same logic as what you did the month before or the quarter before?
I have just come back from Las Vegas, Oracle NetSuite conference, Nashville XeroCon conference, Counting and Business show in Singapore. So they've all just kind of happened all at once.
You're also involved with the ACCA board and the upcoming elections.
People who are on the council have influence over the way the profession is run. And I love your updates and listen to them religiously. I want that awareness brought into the educational arena. I want students to be coming through and know about various bits of technology, be training on what is actually going to be useful for them so that they can actually roll out into a practice almost ready to work. There are over 250,000 members in the ACCA world and very small amount of them vote. So I encourage you to be actually involved in the voting. Your vote really does count because such a low number do actually vote. And it only takes a few minutes.
At news this week, I'm kicking it off. Xero snaps up Syft Analytics in a $70 million deal.
How the heck am I supposed to do what I was doing in classic Xero invoicing to the new Xero invoicing?
Starling Bank were fined £29 million by the FCA for what they called shockingly lax customer checks.
Apron have enhanced the security probably on the back of their work with the FCA and becoming more regulated.
Access continued their shopping spree in the Xero ecosystem.
FreeAgent over the summer have gone crazy with releasing new integrations.
Only old people have cod liver oil tablets. So why were you taking cod liver oil tablets?
I'm getting younger. I started as an old man.
And now you look like a baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello and welcome to today's Digital in a Cruel World episode. We are delighted to be bringing you a few interesting guests this week that we've been joined by Heather Smith about her re-election campaign with the ACCA. And for all those who haven't taken the time to vote yet, we very much urge you to go and do that because you'll hear from her on why that is very important for her and for other people that are up for election. And also we'll be hearing the latest update from Matt at iplicit on the centralized versus connectivity in ERP data. And we'll also be hearing in the app news from a few snippets that have been going on in the marketplace, specifically to do with acquisitions, investments, and any of the new features that are the latest and best in class across a few of the applications in the accounting tech space. So before we go any further, I'm going to be joined by my co-hosts, John and Ryan. John, how are you? How are things? Where are you?
Hi, Andy. Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. I'm in our Manchester office today. Just had to come in for a few meetings, catch up with a few people. But yeah, all good. Come off the back of a fairly chilled weekend and a bit of wine tasting the other night, which was very good. So yeah, all in all.
Wine tasting implies that this was just small amounts that were being tasted, but was it small amounts, John, or was it?
I mean, yeah, small amounts were tasted, but multiple small amounts.
So you didn't choose to use the swill bucket at all?
No, that's a waste, unless it's terrible wine. I mean, I did have to pour one glass of red away, which was absolutely awful, but there you go. And at the end of the night, I did commandeer one of the bottles that was left on the table just to make sure that the sort of small crowd of us that were having a bit of a chinwag together didn't have to move away from where we were to get more wine.
Oh, very nice. That sounds like a good evening. Ryan, how about you? Any wine tastings happening on your front, or is it just mainly sleep?
Well, I wish it was sleep. Yeah, I strive for sleep at the moment with the little one, but yeah, I'm still having fun times. Just different fun times. It's not going out partying, drinking. It's just holding a baby and sticking a bottle in its mouth. Same thing.
It's full of love, though. That's the same thing, right? That's pretty much what John did.
Pretty much the same.
Yeah, I'd be very pleased. So, like, if you just hold me and rock me to sleep at night.
Next night out.
There you go. That's a double room booked.
Unfortunately, I'm missing you at the Accounting Excellence Awards that are taking place tomorrow, which is a bit of a shame, especially since we held our first awards event and we had quite a few people join us. Tom joined us as well. I'm really looking forward to see some of the nominees tomorrow. Who should I make some time to speak to? Please hit me with some options, John, Ryan. Now, tell me who you think that we should try and tap up and speak to while I'm there.
I think you should speak to Gavin from Beach Accounts, because I think he's up to 3 awards this time around, and he's always got a fairly big play in the ESG space, which is a hot topic for us at the moment. And lots to learn from him, I think. Nice.
I'm going to make some time to speak to Alex at Soaring Falcon, because she's a regular on our podcast and she's up for an award again. And I think the last time I was there was 2 years ago. Unfortunately, she just missed out on the award that she was up for, but I'm really hoping that she secures a win tomorrow as well. How about you, Ryan?
Well, we're kind of up for an award now that we've been acquired by Summer. Summer are up for New Firm of the Year because obviously they're brand new. Scott & Bland, been here for 100 years, but we've been acquired by someone that's new. So, hey, we're up for an award.
It's exciting times. This is good. I think the other person you should catch up with Indy as well, just very quickly, is Phil Hobden, since he's now got his new exciting sales role at Silverfin. So I think it'd be a good opportunity to find out what's in store for him over the next few months.
Nice. Sounds good. All right. Well, shall we crack on with that news? So kicking off at news this week, I'm kicking it off. Xero snaps up Syft Analytics in a $70 million deal. It looks like there was an upfront payment of roughly $40 million and $10 million was issued in Xero shares, with the balance in earnouts and employee stock compensation over the 3 years of deferred consideration. Syft, obviously, as most people know, integrates with different softwares like Xero, QuickBooks, and Sage, and has allowed users to transform raw financial data into reports, forecasts, and analytics. So initially it was set up just for the South African market, but now it's operational in more than 80 countries, with most users based in Xero's largest market. So it looks like a really great synergy for Xero. Syft has currently got more than 70 employees. So hopefully they'll go from strength to strength and continue to build out a deeper relationship within the Xero technology. What are your guys' thoughts on that in terms of tech being acquired by one of the big ones, because Xero hasn't made an acquisition in a while? And do you think that it means some changes for the other apps that are currently that Syft currently plugs into?
Hopefully this is a better acquisition than Xero have done in the past. We've now got obviously new ownership, and I think it's going to be quite a powerful one, because I think the way Syft have played their go-to-market is they've gone, an all-you-can-eat, account for accountants who then plug in all of their clients. So they've got a huge amount of data on small and medium-sized businesses across, all the key jurisdictions that Xero play in. So even if they don't care about the tech, the amount of data that they've got through this acquisition that they can learn from and then, I guess, use to feed their strategy going forward, I think probably justifies the value in itself. But if they manage to have a deeper tie with Syft, which is generally aimed at the smaller business side from the way it's got and built its reporting, I think, personally, I think it's quite a good acquisition. Let's just see and hope, fingers crossed, that it's not destroyed as part of the ongoing developments after acquisition.
I think historically Xero have been pretty good insofar as that they haven't shut off their acquisitions to their so-called sort of competitor products. So hopefully QuickBooks, Sage, FreeAgent users, etc., will still be able to use Syft and connect into it and use the reporting functionality and the other features that they've got there. I mean, for me, I think where this is really interesting is there's two parts to this. Xero quite clearly missed out on buying FCA Analytics, which is now part of the DEX suite of products, DEX Precision, and no one could quite understand why Xero didn't pull that one off. So they effectively corrected that mistake because Syft have some of that functionality in there, and also we're going to be talking about at some point one of the new releases that Xero have got, which kind of covers some of that functionality as well. And the second part of it is I think that for a long time Xero have been trying to improve the reporting and add more and more functionality to reporting. And the new Xero reporting that they launched a few years ago is pretty good. It's got a lot of functionality and flexibility, but it's not particularly visual, if you like, in terms of the way that it's not in the same realm as Syft or Fathom or Spotlight and some of the other products that are out there. And that's very much what people are looking for in their functionality. Plus, I think the final thing, which I think might be an interesting one for them to be able to leverage off the back of, is that with Syft, you're able to do some better work around consolidating multiple products, multiple versions of Xero, etc., together. And that is an area of potential weakness for Xero as they sort of, as you go multi-group or multi-entity. And you could kind of look at that and say maybe they might fix with the Syft acquisition some of the things that are problematic, like group VAT registrations and filing of returns and stuff, because there's going to be a crossover of handing data off to a third party, which you can aggregate together and then potentially file. So I'm going to put that on the potential hit list for something they might do in the future.
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll go there, but I think it'll be quite a nice play if they do that.
Interesting. Can I just ask one question? Who are the other independent analytics-based dashboard apps that are left in the space that are that would rival with this at the moment?
You've got DEX Precision from an analytics point of view. You've got Expert, who I guess is relatively new over to the UK.
And enriched with more AI in the sense that that's their take on it. What about Join as well?
Join's more the consolidated reporting side, which Syft do as well. So I guess the beauty of where Syft got to is it did such a broad range of things to a certain level without going too advanced. And I think that's another really good ploy in this acquisition, is that where Xero is aiming, which it keeps reiterating, is that small business space, Syft works well for.
So in terms of dashboards, financial reports, consolidations, analytics, forecasting, scorecards, spreadsheets, linking spreadsheets, and then reviewing data. And then I guess the next step is enriching that with, as you said, some sort of maybe applications to use the data more effectively, AI perhaps powered or not. But either which way, hopefully the two together can do something that's really intuitive for the small, mid-sized enterprises.
Well, look, pivoting from that, I've got another bit of news from Xero. Different take on this one. As you're probably experiencing, if you've got Xero as an app you work with, you're probably getting contacted by your clients that go, how the heck am I supposed to do what I was doing in classic Xero invoicing to the new Xero invoicing? Because we're getting a lot of queries as it's hitting that transition date now. And Dia Jolly, CPTO at Xero, took upon herself to reach out personally via blog to, I guess, everyone to talk about the purpose and why they're going down this route. And I think it was not necessarily what's interesting that was in the blog, but the fact that they've recognized maybe the pushback and the need to do that someone high up at Xero has needed to step up and say, these are the reasons, this is why it's important, this is what we need to do. And it does highlight some features that I guess people were panicking about that weren't in place by the time it gets cut off, that are being put in place. And they have already highlighted after this blog, I think, as well, that there's a few features that won't be live by the date it gets cut off and will only be rolled out after that date. But they've also talked about some of the new, interesting, more dynamic features that new Xero invoicing enables. And I'm still similar to what it was with Xero reporting. When the new stuff came, I was actually very not interested, passionate about the change to the new style. I think unlike Xero reporting, where they managed to get it all done before the cutoff, they've just delayed it a little bit this time, and I think it's starting to affect people.
We talked about this, I think, didn't we, on a previous pod? But I think effectively launching a new feature, and then not having the basic functionality of the feature you're replacing is just not acceptable. That anyway, that is where Xero are at the moment, and we'll see what happens. Moving on then to something completely different. Starling Bank were fined £29 million by the FCA for what they called shockingly lax customer checks. And this is a fine that was reduced from £41 million as a consequence of kind of some of the actions that Starling had taken to kind of mitigate these. But I mean, this is it's a slightly tortuous issue, and the new CEO who was put in place in March, who took over from Anne Bowden, who, interestingly enough, the other day was at a conference saying she wouldn't want to try being a founder CEO again. But he's had to sort of tuck his tail between his legs and apologise wholeheartedly for the failings. And it seems like from what you can read about this, it's just a failure of process, because basically Starling became aware of a problem in January 2023 that its automated screening system had since 2017 only been screening customers against a small portion of the financial sanctions lists that are available, and not the full comprehensive lists, which for anyone working in our kind of world seems a little bit unfathomable, because basically most systems just seem to automatically look at all of the lists, and the challenge actually is about cutting down the noise to figure out if the John Smith that you're trying to take on as a new client, for example, is the John Smith that may be on one of the sanctions lists. But this is an issue that the FCA have been aware of. Obviously we've had issues with Revolut in the past as well, and other things. And effectively, they were put on notice about opening accounts and having to improve their systems a good few years ago. And then the FCA went back for a sort of a compliance check and found out that they hadn't actually done what Starling agreed to do in terms of making some changes to the processes. And they had opened over 54,000 accounts for 49,000 high-risk customers between September 21 and November 2023. And they've now had to basically go back through a process of rechecking those, and I can only assume potentially shutting some of those accounts or dealing with some of those accounts as well. There isn't any detail about that, but the FCA were pretty damning in their opinion about how Starling had performed in this case.
It's unsurprising that Starling has grown at a phenomenal rate. So it's exactly what we were talking in one of our earlier podcasts to do with AML compliance processes, and how in a bid to speed up go-to-market, there are checks and balances that sometimes get missed in the bid to get to a frictionless user experience and getting customers onboarded, but then at the same time comes at the expense of some of perhaps the considerations that existed for a long time in terms of financial regulation. What I thought was really interesting about this was that the case took only, and I say only, 14 months from opening to achieving the outcome. And that's fast for the FCA. That's very fast, because the average case typically is anywhere between it's sort of around the 42 months that they're saying. But I happen to know, obviously, this does take a long time when you report to the FCA, and those that work in any of that financial space, we're all on the hook to make disclosures as part of the training that you have to do for compliance. And I think it's really interesting to see that actually what this shows me is the FCA is still cracking down quite well on those in this space where it comes to like fintech and the technologies that have been fast growing but coming under regulation. So I think actually I'm quite excited to see how they develop this a little bit more, because I think that there's still a lot of gaps that people have not really tightened yet. And I think that the fact that the FCA are speeding up a little bit will mean that we all get our checks and balances in order to make sure that compliance takes place at the right kind of speed. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, we're talking about, I guess, compliance and security, and I know we've talked about banks, but also payments as well in previous podcasts. We've got Apron, who have enhanced the security, probably on the back of their work with the FCA and becoming more regulated. They've released two-factor authentication, but the ability to mandate it. It's been in the tool for a while, but something that I am very passionate about is giving the admin users the ability to mandate it across all users in the tool, and that is something they've ruled out. I don't know if it was a forced one as going through that FCA regulation, but it's good to see either way. As well as that, they've released some other tweaks in September regarding the ability to put through sales invoices for scanning and uploading through Apron, and the ability to collaborate via the act button, which everyone loves to do, right? You love to tag people for communication, like if you need someone to check something or approve it, you can do that by mentioning it inside Apron now.
Something else from Apron as well, as Ryan said, a whole host of new features rolled out. They've raised 22 million in investment to expand the payments push success that they've already had in the UK, and they have seen extreme product growth when it comes to the customer base, more than 20-fold to thousands of small businesses. 90% they're saying were signed up through the accountants and bookkeeping channel. Apron was initially a payments tool. They've made no secret of this. They're going into expense cards and payment products. That the plan is really to help launch a new product for larger suppliers that issues invoices to the smaller customers, and they're intending to reduce the manual work of collecting revenue and getting the money paid quicker. I think this is something that could be really game changing for anyone that is in the space. I think that it's really helpful for those in the ERP systems that, again, have lots of customers, lots of smaller suppliers that perhaps don't get paid quick enough. It's no secret that that's a big gap in financing terms in the market. I think decisioning is really key on that. So it'll be really interesting to see how that investment is used to make more intelligent decisions around not just like who benefits from that, but also how much and what. Because I think that in most of what we're seeing, and even to Ryan, your point, that the features that are really being deployed are so great from a tech perspective. Also, they have recently become regulated and have their EMI license. I think it's will mean a lot of growth on all fronts. So then to start taking on new products around that piece around payment of small suppliers and making sure that they're paid faster, I think that's in itself another category on top of card issuing. So be very interesting to see how that goes, but it's an amazing amount of money to have been raised over this period. And where I suppose most have struggled in this space, it seems that Aprons have got some secret sauce on their side.
Yeah, completely agree with that. And congratulations to Bogdan and the team, because they are the guys that can keep finding people with deep pockets at the moment. That's for sure. Moving on then to something else. Access have continued their shopping spree in the Xero ecosystem, and have announced they've entered into an agreement to acquire Tradify, which will probably be familiar to a lot of people. They have an office over here in the UK, although they're a New Zealand-based app originally. And by dint of the name, they are a product that is built for tradespeople. Offers a whole bunch of things around managing customer inquiries, sending estimates and quotes, scheduling, staffing, job tracking, timesheets, and then the invoicing and certification, etc. off the back of it. And they were founded in 2013, so just over 10 years ago, by an electrician over in New Zealand, excuse me, who's in for a payday now of approximately, I think it says 9 million New Zealand dollars, or about 4.5 million UK. And Tradify has around about 20,000 customers, particularly across sort of UK, New Zealand, and Australia. No announcement on how much the deal is worth, although it has been announced by the Overseas Investment Office based in New Zealand that the deal is subject to their approval, which means that the value is above 100 million New Zealand dollars, so around about 50 million UK sterling. So that'll have to go through the approval process, and that can take a good few months. So that deal won't be closed out until the OIO have finished their work. But a fascinating one. And I mean, I guess Access have said all the positive things about adding this to their ecosystem of products and stuff. But I guess I continue to ask the question: is like, why are Access buying these kind of products, particularly like a product like Tradify, which really is has had most success, I would say, with very small trades businesses, typically the sort of sole traders, 1 or 2 person firms, things like that. that's not the sweet spot for Access in terms of their ERP solution. And yet Access have said all of the usual stuff in terms of this is a great addition to our, our ecosystem, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is that most Tradify customers are not going to be using Access Financials, for example, to run their business on, because that's way too complex and way too costly. So you can only assume that Access has decided that, yes, they're talking about their ecosystem, but the reality is they're just looking for good products and trying to buy good products, which is effectively what Visma are doing.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth on this one, John. I am baffled by the strategy. So we talked about Xero's acquisition of Syft earlier, and that fit perfectly in their sweet spot. This doesn't fit there at all. Now, they've definitely been acquiring those cloud native solutions. They've got a broad brushstroke that's gone across, and some really good strategic acquisitions as they've been doing this, like including likes of Fathom and Unleash as they've combined up products. But this one just sits on the edge. Don't really get it. But if it makes some money, does it really matter? And I guess my final bit to wrap up the app news for this week is to talk a bit about FreeAgent. They have, on the back of releasing their integrations directory over the summer, have gone crazy with releasing new integrations. So I think in September, they've announced 5. They've integrated into Corepay One, which is a total expense management app. They've integrated into AdSum, which we talked about quite a bit on the podcast over the summer period, which is kind of that VAT integrator into HMRC to suck out data you might not be able to see from your agent services account. They've integrated into Penfold, the pension app, and now they've integrated into Buddy as well, which is the new all-in-one HR and payroll tool that you'll probably be seeing a lot more on. With probably the cutest little what's it called? Not logo, but the what's it called? I've got a mind blank.
It's a red panda.
Yeah, but what's it called?
Mascot.
Mascot.
Yeah.
Thank you indeed. Mind blank on the word mascot.
Do you think, as an aside, do you think we should be looking for more, accounting tech providers to come up with some sort of fluffy mascot? Because we've got Translucent with the skunk, we've got Buddy with the red panda. FewSign tend to give away like little koalas, don't they, as well? So I think this is what we need: is we need kind of people to align with some kind of mascot.
Definitely, I definitely agree. And I mean, the last one that I guess the FreeAgent have integrated in is Expert. So calling on you, Expert, come up with a fluffy mascot that we could talk about on the podcast.
I think FreeAgents should be a nice fluffy dog, because they're the friendliest, aren't they? So
yeah, they should.
Or they could be like those cat memes, they sort of smile and like.
Yeah. And that wraps up this week's app news. So if you want to learn a bit more about iplicit, as we've been going through the series, learning more from them about their products and how they sit in the app ecosystem, regarding different finance platforms that you could potentially utilize with your clients, then stay on.
Well, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Matt Loons from iplicit, and we're going to continue the series that we've been doing originally with Paul and now with Matt on talking about iplicit in a bit more detail, getting to understand the product, some of the features of the product, and why why it's been making waves over the last few years in terms of really bounded onto the accounting tech scene and making a difference. And the focus of today's session is going to be just talking a little bit more about the modern ERP, perfect fit for iplicit in terms of where they're looking to position the product, and also just how you can then utilize that to slice and dice the data. And we're going to have an interesting conversation about what's the benefit of having all of your data in one place in a modern ERP in terms of being able to see everything in iplicit, for example. But also iplicit does have integrations with third-party products, and best-of-breed products as well. And so they've also got the ability to kind of have this hybrid setup and see data across different systems and in different places. So Matt, I'll hand over to you. Maybe you can just give us a little bit of a background on iplicit, fill in some of the gaps that maybe Paul's left, and talk to us a little bit about this modern ERP concept.
I think in terms of talking about having all your data in one place compared to being split across multiple systems, I think first of all, there's a ton of efficiencies you can save around that, just in terms of this one version of the truth. It's that ability to drive in and slice and dice your data in any way that you see fit. So One of the biggest USPs that we have inside iplicit is the fact that the reporting tables are basically, by all intents and purposes, pivot tables. Okay. So that means that you can accumulate all of your data across either the group or even if it's just an individual entity, but you can slice and dice and manipulate data however you see fit. So whether that's by entity, whether that's by financial year, cost center, department, projects, it doesn't really matter. But the point is, it's always consistently applying that same logic each time. Whereas in my previous roles, when I've used systems like Xero for multi-entities or trying to pull together multiple sources of data, you spend hours of time, one in Excel pulling it together. Then you get to the next month or the next quarter and you try to remind yourself, how did I do that last time? And then are you actually putting the data together in the same way? Are you aggregating it in the same way? And are you even consistently applying the same logic as what you did the month before or the quarter before? And then you might realize halfway through that you've exported the wrong TB for the wrong period, which I was definitely guilty of when I was doing things like just even simple age creditors reports, for example, when I was in practice before, and realizing that 4 of them were for March period and 1 of them was for April. And that's no wonder it wasn't making any sense. So you've definitely got some benefits there just in terms of single source, single versions of the truth.
And that concept of kind of like pivot tables, I mean, number one, that's always going to be very familiar to a lot of accountants because, you know, we're big users of Excel and you know, pivot tables is probably one of the basic concepts that people are used to. But that also then does give you an incredible amount of power, right? Doesn't it, Matt, in terms of being able to, like you say, slice and dice that data and pull together data, again, in a concept that's familiar, but also being able to draw that across multiple entities or even multiple cost centers or multiple divisions in a way that probably, like you say, is much more challenging where maybe you're using multiple versions of Xero to try and achieve the same thing.
And then I think you've got the other added complexity as well of you start stitching together all these multiple apps and stuff. Who's owning those apps? Who's making sure that one change has been applied here? Who's on top of the training for all of these apps and making sure that you're getting the most out of them and you're keeping up with the pace of change? And then even if you're doing all of that, what happens if one of these apps gets bought or sold or changes, or there's an update to one of the things and it completely breaks your chain? Who's looking after that? I saw that in my time in practice with Datadeer. We use Datadeer a lot for the Excel extraction tool from Xero. We remember that they bought Datadeer and turned that feature off within 6 months, and it was only for QuickBooks customers. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen for every app out there, but what if one of your core apps of your app stack gets taken out with the knees, and all of a sudden you've got this hole in your ecosphere? What are you going to do with that?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a risk, isn't it? I guess the sort of flip side argument, maybe if I was being a little bit sort of testy with you, is that, you know, you could say that people use these best of breed solutions because, you know, they're looking for a product that really fits their requirements. And sometimes when you're looking at an ERP solution, we were talking about OCR just before we started recording, and sometimes those OCR capabilities in an ERP are functional, but maybe not as capable as, you know, the best products out there that are standalone sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got an open API, for example, so we can connect with systems of people's choice. So for example, in the OCR space, we've got the likes of Lightyear. So we don't limit people to only using iplicit. What we're looking to do is we're looking to build a system that is best of breed and best of class in the finance function, and then we will connect to other systems of your choice. So you can still have that best of breed approach, but the idea is most of those finance functions are consolidated in one piece of software, and you're plugging in things like CRM systems, for example, or EPOS systems, not necessarily things like approval software or OCR software. The key here is understanding your customer's needs and wants. So when we are going through the sales cycle with a customer, we really understand their processes from start to finish. And we always make the key points of them that this is the chance to readdress everything, not just lift and shift existing processes into the new system, because that's the worst thing that you can do, but reassess everything. And we work with you to make sure that ultimately, however you decide to use iplicit or whatever ERP you end up going for, you have one version of the truth.
Well, I think that is the perfect place to end that, Matt, because I think you're absolutely right. It's like, you know, focusing in on what the client's needs are and like, you know, making sure that they take that opportunity to address everything is the perfect timing for any kind of transformation project, particularly when you're moving from one finance system to another, because that's going to have a fairly big impact. So thanks very much for your insights. And we've got one more to record, so we'll move on to that shortly, and we'll look out for that in the next podcast.
Perfect.
Oh, Indy, here you go. This will make you happy. So you know how I love to take the mickey out of you rubbing weird stuff into your body. Well,
Might be into the soles of my feet, just a caveat, but okay, yes.
yeah, weird
Whatever.
stuff. So I have decided to start taking Manuka honey mixed with turmeric and ginger and a little bit of black pepper, because it's got anti-inflammatory properties. And the best thing about inflammation is one of the biggest killers in the world. So I have literally in the last 24 hours just started taking that. So we'll see what the results are like in a week or so.
Wait.
John, no, before you go any further, John, what did I tell you to do all summer? I told you to do this. And lo and behold, you're only doing it now as you enter the winter months. I'm proud of you.
It's a time thing, all right.
My God. Netflix.
He had to go milk the bees.
The boobies.
No, John. No.
John.
Bad John. So look, I got two questions that come out of this. Firstly, where did that stat come from that inflammation is the biggest killer in the world?
So inflammation is one of the biggest killers in the world because it leads to things like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, all sorts of other things. That is why they call it, what do they call it? It's inflammaging. That's a phrase that you might hear.
Agent.
And
Yeah.
it's really bad for you. It's also inflammation is one of the biggest causes of like a lot of brain diseases and stuff. So things like Parkinson's, dementia, etc.
It sounds like you have been listening to or reading The Glucose Goddess, which I read the other day. And she talks about the fact that we're kind of boiling our bodies from the inside. And so the best way to circumnavigate this and prolong your DNA health is to avoid glucose spikes. And so also decided to take an experiment last week for the last 1 week. And I tell you, I think I need to ease my way into it a little bit. So she says there's 4 things that you can do, which is 1 is having a savory breakfast. 2 is having a veg starter to any meal that you have. 3 is moving for 10 minutes intensely after you've eaten or within a 90-minute window of having eaten. So that intense movement could be like dance or walking. And then the 4th thing, which I did really try for all of 1 day last week, but then I thought, no, I've got to ease myself into it, was the tablespoon of vinegar in the 300 mils of water before you eat. And oh God, it was.
Was this apple cider vinegar as well?
I actually, she said that anything.
Oh, don't tell me we like malt vinegar or something. Just like the stuff that you lob on your chips.
So I tried that any vinegar you have in your cupboard. So I went with, what are you laughing? I would not do it. Wait, white wine vinegar. That was
How long have it been in the cupboard for? About 15 years. And it got to the point where you got like flaky bits at the bottom.
Layered.
Vinegar. God, that was awful as well. And so I just and then in the end, what I've done is instead I've done the other 3 things, and then this week on the weekend I bought some supplement, the vinegar in the capsule format.
What? Why vinegar in capsule format? Do you mean like you get those little packets when you go to the chippy and it comes in a little plastic packet? That's not capsule format. You get a box of 500 at a time from them.
Just shocked it straight into her mouth.
No. So no, I bought like the pills that you can swallow, and I thought, I don't want to have to drink it really hard. I tried.
You could get those little packets. You could put them in the freezer and pretend they're like a little ice lolly.
That's true. It's still bad for your teeth, right? By the way, it's still bad for your teeth.
So is this like when did you ever used to have those cod liver oil tablets that were the most revolting thing in the world? Is it like having one of them?
Did you just say, did you used to have them? That implies that you used to have them, Ryan, and only old people have cod liver oil tablets. So why were you taking cod liver oil tablets at like
I'm
7?
getting younger as I get, through my years. I'm getting younger. I start as an old man
And now you look like a baby.
Yeah, exactly. If you look at my son, he looks like a grumpy old man. So it follows, it follows through our genetics. Anyway, how are you making
You're
this
our
concoction?
very own Benjamin Button. Is that what you're saying?
I
You're
am.
like the
I am
podcast equivalent.
just like Brad Pitt. So how are you making that concoction, John? Is it on a spoon? Are you pouring honey on a
It's
spoon?
on a spoon.
How are you making this thing?
I make it in a little jar, and it's if you would want the precise measurements, is seven teaspoons of honey, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, half a teaspoon of black pepper. Mix it all together, and then you can have a spoon of it every single day.
You got to keep it in the fridge?
No, not really, because it's only honey, isn't it? And
Well,
like dry ingredients.
It's about inflammation. Generally, all of those are really good for inflammation on their own individually, but putting them together is just makes you like a really great way of, over the winter months, taking care of yourself, and in preparation for the spring months when the pollen first comes in, you will acclimatize a little bit better. So you can't just expect honey to work.
is it local honey though?
I went a bit poncy because I went for Manuka honey, but that's because I decided to just go to Tesco and buy it because I was being silly. But apparently the one thing, I mean, getting off the Manuka honey topic, the black pepper makes the turmeric 20 times more effective.
And that is why Indians love turmeric and garam masala specifically.
Learn a lot from this intro. I feel
So
that maybe
welcome
Sorry,
to my club. Welcome to my club, John T. And I'm so glad to have you. Come on in, take a seat.
I'm not sure I want to be
Let's
fully
allow me
admitted
to
as a
run
member
by
yet.
your feet.
I'm still
I think-
maintaining a level of scientific reasoning in this approach. So I'm trying
I
to.
think we need a new intro for our podcast. It should be Welcome to the Modern Health Podcast, brought to you by John and Indy and Ryan, who's an idiot and just listens.
Today, we are going to be joined by the wonderful Heather Smith from the other side of the water, who has given us her time very late into the wee hours of the morning to dial in, and has also been touring at Globetrotting once again. Heather, tell us more about where you are right now, where you're going to, where you've been in the recent
Okay. Thank you, Indy and Ryan, for having me on the show. Really, always enjoy being here. Always enjoy listening to your show. I have just come back from Las Vegas, where I went to the Oracle NetSuite conference, and then prior to that, I was at the Nashville XeroCon conference, and I've had, I think, a couple of weeks back in Brisbane, Australia. And at the end of this week, I head off to the Accounting and Business Show in Singapore. So they've all just kind of happened all at once. But just very grateful for the opportunity to travel to accounting as a global language. And it's really wonderful to be able to jump into these different places, hear what they're doing, immerse yourself in the culture and how they embrace accounting and the different nuances there.
You're also involved with the ACCA board at the moment and the upcoming elections and votes that will happen there. So can you tell us a little bit and just give us a high-level summary snapshot on everything that you're working on to do with the ACCA? Because obviously most of our listeners are accountants, have their own boards. Each one operates differently. But obviously, it is something that we don't really get time enough to cover. And it sounds like you're at least pushing an agenda there. And so it would be good to hear more about it.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So the ACCA is having their global council elections, and there's 31 members up, and there are 11 spots open, and you can vote for them. So I encourage you to look to see who you should be voting for and be actually involved in the voting process, because people who are on the council have influence over the way the profession is run. And they have influence over in terms of bringing accounting technology into the education, ensuring that the gap has been bridged between sort of old school accounting and sort of modern accounting. And we want people who are aware of that, who are in those influential positions, to have those conversations and bring technology into the education bit of it. I have one of the interesting things is that this is actually the 5th time I'm running for it, but by doing that, you become known by people within the organisation, and was invited to join their technology body, their Global Technology Forum, which is extraordinarily exciting. And I'm also chair of their Global SME Forum. And we have meetings on a sort of a bi-monthly basis, people all over the world, really exciting. And we develop professional insights. We put out like a dozen professional insights, if not more, every year, which is very useful for pushing the industry forward.
How does the process for electing or for being able to decide who goes on the board, how does that go? How does that happen? What are the patterns that you've seen in terms of if someone does vote or doesn't vote? Actually, like we always hate people who abstain actually the most, don't we? Because it's really unhelpful. They have the vote and they don't take it. So it's just interesting to know, how does that work in that world?
So there are over 250,000 members in the ACCA world, and a very, very small majority amount of them actually vote. A very small amount of them vote. They have up to 11 votes to take, and it only takes a few minutes to actually sit and actually do the vote. And when you click through the process, you can read everyone's profile, get to know who they are, but also you can actually connect with them on LinkedIn, and then you sort of can follow who they are and over the years and sort of get to know who they are. If you um if you give away your vote, then the chair gets to actually allocate that vote, and they end up with thousands of votes to actually distribute that way. So it's really worth noting that your vote really does count, because such a low number do actually vote.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, that's incredible to know that that's just the low number that ends up making it through. So if you have a vote and you're not using it this year, please can you make sure you do actually for once instead, and then not moan about it later when you know the decision's been made on your behalf, because I'm sure that is something that we Brits like to do a lot, isn't it, Ryan?
It is. We do love a moan. I guess something I'd love to ask you, Heather, because we're very much tech focused at Digital Disruptors, and part of the reason we do our app news is to educate, to make sure people know what's going on and what's changing in the app landscape. Is what do you really want to change? What do you really want to improve in the professional body, especially ACCA, from a tech education perspective?
Like you, very, very focused on app technology, and I love your app updates and listen to them religiously. I want that awareness brought into the educational arena. I want students to be coming through and know about the various bits of technology, and not be sort of training on something that they're never going to use. Be training on what is actually going to be useful for them, and so that they can actually roll out into a practice almost ready to work, and educated about roll out into a practice or into a commercial enterprise, and in a better state to work and aware of modern technologies. Also would like to see modern technologies used in terms of the actual examination process as well. That's quite interesting. I actually did my final exam outside in a hawker center, which is a food center in Singapore. And there was a monkey in the tree above me, and he kept jumping around, and I was very scared, because I did my last exam in Singapore.
Well, I've never been that distracted during an exam. Usually just someone coughing, but a monkey chopping around a tree is pretty impressive. Something I guess we wouldn't want people to do, and something we need to be very wary of when we're doing the exams now, is the impact of AI. And hopefully, I guess in your position, absorbing all of this information, you can help guide the board in the impact of AI, the education around AI. Is that something you're passionate about as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It is astonishing how good it can actually be to respond to answers, and it's something that the educators and the invigilators are going to have to navigate in a way that properly tests people, but also ensures that they're not using AI in a place where they shouldn't be using AI. Like, as we all know, it's become a part of our everyday. But you need to know what you're doing, and understanding that the T balance, debits and credits, and coming right back to the basics is really important foundation to build upon. And how to do that is something that always needs to be embraced. And so someone like me, I'm sitting in all the forums reading what the students are saying, and so would surface that intel back to the conversations that I'm having when I have the opportunity to have them.
Definitely. And I think one of the challenges nowadays is technology is sometimes hiding all of that core knowledge that you built up as accountants in the past. And so it's reframing, reshaping how the education works. And it'd be really interesting to see how those bodies change over time. One thing that I think we've always been concerned about as a trio is the speed of the change. I guess we could criticize they're not doing it fast enough. But hopefully by getting the right people on the board, the right people that can share the insights will enable that. And Heather, I guess, you having the opportunity to put yourself forward and potentially be elected is a key part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully. I keep trying. This is my fifth time. I keep trying, but I do. It's great to see people actually getting involved, and a lot of people come and tell me this is their first time voting. So that's a good thing as well.
It's completely off topic now. The hair color seems a lot more normal. Like you're not got vibrant pink, or
I knew you were going to ask that, and this
there
was
it
happening
is.
to me. Before I do it, otherwise the hairdresser's fingers turn pink. So I'm holding up a metal vivid's next generation vivid color. I've never tried this one before, but I'm trying that tomorrow. Okay, for people listening in, it's by L'Oreal there. So in case L'Oreal wants to sponsor your podcast.
Perfect advertising.
You always know how to ask the interesting questions, don't you?
Well, it's because I'm jealous. I can't do these things. I can try and dye my beard, but I just don't think that's going to have any real impact.
Heather, did you hear about our latest awards and the lead up to the awards? Actually, you probably caught some of Ryan's LinkedIn posts and the promotion of how we are going about events and how we're, seeing the industry. It was obviously one really topical discussion that was covered on the awards day itself around influencers. So it's very interesting because obviously we work in the same space and have done for the last few years. And I think that space has really boomed within the last 6 to 12 months. There are so many different forms of influencers out there now. It's really just to get your perspective on it, because to be honest with you, I love putting Ryan on the spot most of the time. But the post that he shared just in the run up to the awards was absolutely, it's for once, actually, I think all of us had a really good time just looking at Ryan and giving him a good roasting for a few days. So what were your thoughts?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think that many of us feel that the word influencer is an ugly word. However, I think it's about sort of taking an understanding of where it is, in that you're educated, you're aware of what's happening, and trying to put out responsible your insights or what has surfaced for you as something that you're using and other people potentially should look at. Whether it is absolutely you should look at this, or whether you should be aware of something, it's always important to be transparent about where that position came from. So, do you have a strategic relationship with someone, or is it from, like, one of the things I do is I get hosted to go to conferences. So, but through doing that, I get a huge amount of education that I can share with people. So, I always do feel I get called that an influencer. I feel uncomfortable with it. However, education is really important. And so I put on the bright pink hair, I put on the colorful outfits so I can engage with people. And I spend a lot of time crafting what I put out there in terms of content and information for people. But
That-
for me personally, the first time I realized I was an influencer when I turned up at grade 8, which is first year of senior school. And one of the mothers came up and said to me, she chose that school because she knew I'd have done the research and would have picked the best school, and she chose it only on me. And that was $250,000 expenditure. She said she
Wow.
chose on me.
wow, that's insane. Did you say grade 8?
Yes.
Yeah. Senior school starts at grade 8 in Australia. We go grade 8 and then you go through to grade 12.
I
Right,
had
think what you
starting
call it.
early. Ryan Harper started early. And to my
Yeah.
point, actually, that one of the things that I think is interesting around the term influencer is that we've turned something that is an action into a person. So to actually then say, well, what is that? When actually you do that in your everyday life, whether you're conscious of it or not, some people are just better at transmitting it. And so I find that there is some responsibility that we need to have to being able to do the diligence on people that you're buying into services for. So I think that's really important, because in this day and age, it is easy to then enter into something that you believe is like a distant sales relationship. Early days of eBay were the same. You know, my dad, he invested in what he thought was a laptop. Of course, it never arrived on eBay. So distance selling in general has always been something that has gone through its infancy, where when you're working with people remotely from where you are, then maybe that's the bit that I think gets a little bit tarnished by like what is influencer and what is actually just distance selling. But I think that in both cases, it's just about being really well informed. And to me, I think that now, like, we have there's so much technology at our disposal to be able to improve what it is that our understanding is, regardless of whose network we are part of. I think the main thing is just whose community that you choose to be in and whose table you want to sit at. And that's where I think that we're probably quite open in different ways, because we all have very different approaches to it. And I know Ryan's post caused a lot of controversy. But Ryan, you learned from it, right? You know, people mistakenly always put a voice to your words, but actually I think that you were just learning from it.
Yeah, well, look, part of it was just to start a conversation, and it was to not say influencing is bad. I think influencing is great, but it's about being ethical as influencers. So doing it in the right way, in the right tone, the right manner, and being open about, you know, if you are promoting something, you know, be honest about it and why you're promoting something. But, you know, I guess we could call ourselves influencers. Other people could call us influencers. But let's be honest, Heather's gone a level above. She's a celebrity in the accounting space. She's beyond. She's stepped above influencing.
Ryan, you are a celebrity in my world.
Well, at least I've got, at least in one person's world, I've hit that level.
Oh, don't
But,
feel sorry for him. Don't do it, Heather.
I think that for many people, the accounting apps or accounting technology is hitting them like a fire hydrant. There is just so much information coming to them, and you, Indy, John, and Ryan are doing such a great job of disseminating that information. That I'm listening to you, I'm listening to Tom Herbert, who who I adore, and to Blake and David on the accounting podcast, and just trying to bring all of that information in and disseminate it all and surface it back. And I'm sure that you're doing the same. Like the amount of research that you do to do your apps news, I'm sure just is hours that people don't realize. And yeah, influencing, but you've done the research and you're just putting that information in front of them in a way of a manner of doing that. And frequently what I'll do, and I can come back from a text writing perspective, because text writing, you defined how you should do it in text writing, is I'll say, okay, this is the solution that I use, but let me give you 3 solutions, and I give them in alphabetical order if I don't have a preference. Always give it in alphabetical order if you don't have a preference.
That's a really great tip, and actually probably super helpful. We started with the digest, looking at ways that we could transmit that same information, but obviously we do try, and I think that's one of the things that we were talking about before, is the approach that we take on influence is probably the Marmite, the Vegemite in some respects, because we do want to at least share something that is slightly objective. But as you grow, as we said, things change. They evolve as you're working with more and more businesses in the space. And I think we kind of see it as a duty, is where we can, to at least keep on trying to convey the content that is relevant based on the applications that are out there. Case in point, we've worked with some payment technologies, we've looked at their processes, we've then found maybe some have had different processes for from a compliance standpoint. So therefore, rather than calling out or naming and shaming, what we tend to do is then say, and actually it's quite ironic because, right, we have the Ditchwater Award. We don't actually go out of our way to then name and shame. We actually tend to focus on the topic, which is compliance, and how you can do it well, and what are the implications if it's not done well in this space. So it's just I guess we're all on that path to understanding the balance of how to influence and what the right ways are to make sure that we transmit the information and it's heard by the accountants as a general community.
And I think in our industry, it's so difficult because things change so quickly. So as soon as a takeover happens, you're like, okay, what's going to happen? I just recommended A and it's been taken over. Are the prices going to go up? Is the sub fees going to go up? Are they going to stop investing in it? And you're like, a year later, this solution that you loved, you've dropped so fast, and you're working on something else. So it is very difficult, and people need to kind of almost understand when they're listening to you. You almost need to timestamp everything again. This for a second in time, this is the solution.
That is exactly right. It is constantly evolving, and trying to stay on top of it is partly just picking a lane. And so those that are very passionate about products that necessarily I'm not passionate about, I still have a lot of respect for them because they've picked a lane. They've gone down the path of going, well, this is why I'm supporting that tool. And as you say, there could be an acquisition, there could be something else that happens. Like we had, the plug pulled on Making Tax Digital, and it crippled some apps like overnight because of that. And yeah, that always been the impact. But it's been great having you on, Heather. The last bit I'd like to get some thoughts on from you are, what do you think has been, I know you've been touring, you've been across the US, you've seen some products. What do you think has been a really good app release that you've seen recently that you thought, that one I really like?
Oh, so disclosure, I strategically partner with Michael Wood, which you know already, but I'm just very impressed with Translucent. I'm very impressed with it because I loved how it is a compound app. I think I've said that to you before, the fact that it all breaks down into Lego blocks. You get all your different files, your zeros, your QBOs, your waves, whatever it is, and they can all come together and be consolidated. Just that I find quite fascinating and quite different out there. So
I know their logo is a skunk, I believe. I've just realised I've got a Lego panda that looks a little bit like a skunk anyway. So that's my last little bit. So I've got something that looks like a translucent Lego icon. Random bit from me. Anyway, look,
maybe
thanks so much.
Michael subtly got it into your office.
Probably. He is very good at that subtle marketing. But look, thank you so much, Heather, for coming on, talking us through what you're trying to achieve with the ACCA Global Council and, your infinite insights on anything that's tech in the accounting space.
Thank you so much. And you're all doing such a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks for joining us on today's episode. We hope you enjoyed hearing more from Matt from iplicit, Heather on the ACCA upcoming elections, and some perspectives on influencers, also the app news. If you've got any perspectives that you want to share on any of the app news, stories that you heard, or anything on today's episode, then we're always hunting for more feedback, and we really are grateful for it. If you haven't already done so, we'd really appreciate a review, just to know how we're doing on the episodes. And it's really helpful for us if more people in the community reach out to us directly to let us know if they've got something interesting or new they'd like to also break to the accounting tech community. So if you are in the market for speaking, then get in touch with one of myself, either Indy, Ryan, or John, or you can reach out to Lee as well. So thanks again. We'll catch you on the next one.